As a female mortgage lender, helping hundreds of families yearly change their lives with a purchase or refinance loan, join me on She Means Business as I interview remarkable professional women who are redefining success and leadership. Get ready to be inspired. Welcome to She Means Business.
Hi, my name is Raisy, Sirote. I'm a small business consultant specializing in operations. I help growing businesses with 5 to 50 employees that are looking to stop putting out fires every day, build structure so that you can have consistent results every time and make more money.
Okay, so welcome back to She Means Business, and we're lucky to have with us Raisy Sirote. Raisy, I met you at a networking meeting. I was so impressed with what you did, and I want you to share to our viewers what you do and something about yourself.
So I am a small business consultant and I specialize in operations. I tend to work with business owners or COOs that are thinking big picture and need help building the structure so that they can grow a business in a healthy way that's sustainable and is efficient.
So it's an interesting thing, you just made a comment of COO. So do you know that, believe it or not, I didn't know what it meant to be a C in front of it until I went to a convention last year of some sort. They asked me to be in a panel, and it was a convention for people in the C level. And I'm thinking C level, like there's an A level, there's a B level. C is like pretty mediocre, actually. And I was like curious why they were advertising to the mediocre. But I said, you know something, even those people might need to get a mortgage. So like, it's
I'll
not
talk to them too.
Yeah, I'll talk to them too. Exactly. I thought they need a lot of teaching. And then I found out that the C meant
Executive suite, yes.
yes, executive suite, the chief operation officer, the
Yes.
chief executive officer, the chief financial officers. And it was just like, okay.
I can talk to those people too.
Yeah, you know, I'm just saying, like, sometimes, like, you're not in that world
Yes.
of that kind of world, the hierarchy, and you don't know exactly, I didn't know what it was. So I learned something new every day, and that's what I learned last year, one day.
Yes. Well, I really enjoyed hearing you on the panel. I thought there were so many interesting things that you shared.
Right. So tell us, like, walk us through what you do. Like, imagine, tell me, like, what would be the ideal business, like, the ideal business you really can help?
So there are two times that businesses come to me. One would be when they are anticipating a lot of growth and they know that in order to be able to sustain that growth, they need to create like a foundation to be able to support it. And the second time would be if they've already experienced rapid growth, the wheels are spinning off, and they know that either they're like, I want to shut this down, or I need to get help, and then they'll bring me in and we can try to build foundational structure so that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, everybody knows what the company as a whole does, that everyone is aligned, the technology is aligned with what the business is supposed to be doing. And I kind of talk about three distinct aspects. There's the people part, there's the process part, and then there's the technology. And when all three work together and are aligned, things run really smoothly. Things aren't on fire all the time, you're not in reactive mode, but when things are not aligned, which often happens when businesses grow quickly, then it's chaos.
You know, even though I do mortgages and not business consulting, but I do speak to a lot of people who start businesses because I'm just generally curious. Like when somebody tells me, I've met people do the most interesting things, because when you do a mortgage application, you ask them what they do, and they tell you. So you have people that, I mean, I'm just thinking now of a couple of really just very interesting things they do. But a lot of people end up being, you know, entrepreneurs. They start as a solopreneur, and then they'll grow the business and grow the business. And did you ever read the book, The E-Myth?
Yes.
Okay, so The E-Myth is a book by Francis Gerber that I just really love. And I think I give away about 12 to 15 of them a year when people say they're starting their own business. And one thing he says in that book, he talks about a guy who was very good making widgets. I'm assuming widgets is something in a factory, like a little piece of some sort. And he's the best widget maker in that factory. So he says, you know something? I'm such a good widget maker, and I'm getting paid only $15 an hour. I should open my own widget making company because I'm good at my craft. So people sometimes start their own businesses because they're good at their craft, but they don't really know how to run a business. And so when you discussing the two types of people that you work with, the people that know they're going to anticipate a lot of growth, and they have that foresight to hire somebody like you to help them through streamlining that. And then there's those people like the widget maker that is really good at his craft, and then suddenly it's ballooning on him, and it's like a snowball. He doesn't have he's going, it's just running way too fast for him. Who tends to gravitate more towards you? Of the clients you work with, do you think it's more the people that have foresight, or more the people that are just like, help, crisis mode?
I think it's split down the middle, but I think that generally the people that are looking for the kind of work that I do are people who know their limitations. They know that their strength is in the creativity, the vision, the ideas, or the craft, as you're describing it as, and they know that the actual building of a business is something that they need help with. And when someone is willing to know and be honest and real with themselves, know that they have a team, but their team is unhappy and they don't know why, or they're not getting the consistent outcome that they have when they were smaller, and now that they're growing bigger and they're unhappy with what they're delivering. So then they look for help, and someone helping with operations is really the way to go.
And what's being said, when they were smaller, now they're bigger, like what size company is like a good spot for you to step in and really make a difference?
Yeah, so I generally work with teams of 5 to 50. So because I really like that you can have such a tremendous impact in the direction that the business goes in. And under 5, it's really too small to really be able to make a real change. So 5 and up. And that's usually when the wheels start to spin off, because even if you don't know how to manage people, and even if you're not sure and you don't have such clear processes, when there's 5 of you and you can yell over the cubicle, it kind of works. But then it starts to, lose control, and then you kind of really need to set up some systems.
And what kind of background did you have to bring you to the point that you could be a consultant that can really move a business?
So I have an interesting story. I think everybody does, really, when you end up in business. Yeah.
And that's what we love. We love to hear the story.
It's great. So I always loved computers, and I knew that I wanted to get a degree in computer science. So I went to Sirote College, and I got a computer science degree. I happened to have graduated at a terrible time, right when the market crashed. So much so that I had an interview, got hired, but then between filling out the paperwork and getting hired, there was a hiring freeze. So I took all kinds of odd jobs in the time to just keep my skills up, and then eventually I got a great job at a commodity trading company. I worked for this wonderful woman named Susan, who really trained me in and taught me everything that I know about systems, and I became a business system analyst, which is someone who interfaces between the business people and the technical people and helps the business people understand how technology can help them, and then translates what the business needs are for the technical people. And I loved the work. It was wonderful. And I got promoted pretty quickly, and it turned into a very stressful role within a few years. I had gotten married in the meantime, and my husband said, "This is really stressful. Maybe we should find something else." And at that point, working part-time in this kind of a field was really not a possibility. So, and I knew that we were going to be starting a family, and I said, maybe I need to look elsewhere. So I left that world, and I went into education for a bunch of years, and I taught high school, all different kinds of things: Navi, history, computer science, AP computer science. And when my youngest child decided to go back to school, when my youngest child went to school, I said, okay, I think I'm ready to go back into the business world. And I looked here, I looked there, and from my experience previously, the only people I knew who went out on their own or were freelancing were writers. I was like, oh, should I be a technical writer? And I was mulling this over for a long time, but everything that I was looking at kept bringing me back to systems, process, people, and a lot of things that I had, skills that I had honed during my time as a teacher that I didn't even realize. My husband had a side business that I helped him grow, and I was like, I think maybe this is the direction I should be going in. And I spoke to a lot of people, found some good mentors, and here I am today.
That is fabulous. Such a good story. And it's really where you want to be also. It's a full circle for you.
It really, really is. And I'm so grateful that the limited options that I had graduating from college so many years ago has changed, and women can work and do their own thing if they have the ability, the will, the desire. There's so many options out there now.
That's 100% true. It's interestingly, talking about that, I was really thinking about, I'm sorry again, I think about how I run my office, and I believe I run a very professional operation, and I have a lot of women who work for me. And we set up that there's a total professionalism in everything that we do, but we're very team and family oriented. And I feel that people who work with us in mortgages are part of our family. And I realized recently that that is kind of what I bring to the table. And I'm not embarrassed about it. If you call my office, you might hear a baby in the background, but doesn't mean there's any lower level of professionalism. And we may not be the right fit for that person who feels that that's unprofessional.
And
that's okay.
And I don't think you would have felt comfortable saying that or being that way 15 years ago. I think things have changed.
It has changed because, 15 years ago, I'm a mother of a lot of children. And when I had kids, that I never told anyone that I had a baby. Like in the office, they even put down, like they'll put out, like, congratulations, someone had a baby. Never for me. I never ever put it out there. And I never told my clients. I actually, when my last child was born, I actually took an application the next morning in the office. And I didn't tell them I had a baby the day before.
That's amazing.
I just didn't. And I remember being part of another group or something, and I missed the meeting because after a week I had the baby. And then the following week I went to this meeting, and they said, people are missing meetings, and looking at that, and they say, there should be no excuses. And they looked at me, and I said, I think I have a good excuse. They said, what was your excuse? I said, I gave birth the day before, or the 2 days before. And they go, huh? You were pregnant? I used to wear a shawl. They shouldn't know.
Wow.
Like, that's how it was. Like, it was such a different timing. I didn't want anyone to think that I wouldn't be able to do my job properly because I had a child.
But I
don't think we feel that way anymore.
I think that's changed, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, it is hard. In the summertime, my son, comes into meetings and yells that he needs goggles, but overall, it works okay.
Okay. So, interesting. Let's just segue into the next thing. We talked about the goggles coming in. How do you balance the work and the home life and private life? Because when you're working for a company, especially on a consultant basis, and they're so needy for you, they're probably relying on you, and they think, or do they think that they can call you, text you, WhatsApp you, and be in touch with you around the clock? Or how do you kind of manage that when you're involved in making a change for a company?
So there's a few different answers to the question. I think the first thing that I would say is that my boundaries have evolved over time, and that when I first started my business, I knew I wanted to have boundaries, but I was still somewhat insecure about it, and so it was hard for me to really clearly define when I sit at my desk, when I'm not at my desk. And also, it was at those beginning stages when the idea of how I was going to market my business and how I was going to start it was invading all of my life and my brain. But as the business has grown and I got more confidence, I'm able to really define my boundaries really clearly. And I have my office at home, and when I close that door, I'm back to the regular mommy that I am, and I'm not really available to my clients outside of business hours, and they know that.
So you tell them. You give them, you let them know.
It's very clear when I'm available, when I'm not available, when I'm out, when I'm not out. It's really clear, and that's also the kind of work that I do. I don't have to be around all the time.
Do you tell them that though? Do you tell them up front when you sign up with them?
It's very clear, yes.
Because we had such an interesting experience. It just is what you're just feeding on to what you're saying. We had a client that told their realtor that we only respond to them only on Tuesdays. And he said, look at my emails. You'll see you only respond to me on Tuesdays. It's like we went to sleep the rest of the week. And then he said, we're not so responsive. And it's interesting because the team he was working with is super responsive. I've never gotten that complaint before.
Right.
And after talking to him, I found out that we send proactively a Tuesday update every week. Whether we get paperwork from a client or not, part of my professional process is a Tuesday update on Tuesday morning every single week. And if it's not going to be that week because it was a legal holiday the day before, there's an email that goes out on Friday, so your Tuesday update will be on Wednesday because we're off on Monday because of a legal holiday or whatever else.
I love this process.
So
it sounds
this
great.
is day in, this is week in, week out. And if the processor in charge is not there, guess what? I do the Tuesday update. I say, your processor's out. This is your Tuesday update, or we figure it out. So it was just odd. So what we realized was this particular client, he's on a hands-on business. He's in the construction field, and he's literally on a job.
In the
and
field.
What he does is he never looks. Doesn't have time when he's on the field to be looking at detailed emails. So while it's important that he buys a house, he just really pretty much during the day, pretty much does not check anything. He also, in his world, he doesn't want to bring his emails into his home or his work into his home. So he leaves like an iPad or something in the car. and he really checks it only like when he's out of the house. So based on that, when we give the Tuesday update, that's what jars him. Hello, I didn't do some things last week, and he starts responding back and forth, and she responds to him, and then he puts the iPad in the car, and the next day he's
Till
on the
next
job,
Tuesday.
and nothing happens, and we're looking to respond to him, but there's nothing to respond. And she realized, and when I told her what he said, she was like, I don't believe it. I respond to this guy at night. And I normally don't respond at night. Just I know if I don't respond at night, I'll never hear from him again. And so she was able to show him that it was his, that she always responded within seconds to him. Like she'll respond to him, he'll send her an email 9 o'clock at night because he responds to something. She'll respond pretty much right away. And then the next day again, there's no response till next Tuesday night. And it was just basically like his need to do basis kind of thing. And so he called me because I have to apologize. I didn't realize I was telling her to go overstep her bounds on responding at night to me. And she really tried very hard. And I didn't realize it. And it was good. Everything is good. But sometimes, like, you know, he apologized to us when we explained to him that we went over and above what we normally do.
And yet he still felt like you weren't servicing him.
He felt that way up until he saw
He understood.
the pattern behavior.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, now I get it. And we realized that because of his mode of work, that we need something for him, not just to send an email, but to pick up the phone. We realized that, and so we do that.
Yeah.
And we were able to. But when he, you know, it was interesting. It was
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that guy can use you probably. Because his business can't be put aside
So
while he's on
many
the field.
times, yeah. No, so many times. They really need to have a lot of good office support for people who are in the field most
Yeah.
of the day. Yeah.
So now that you've changed from being teacher, exactly, you know, school hours, and off between camp and school, as you put it, how are your children looking at you? And now business consultants, sometimes you have to work when they're home or they're off from school, or maybe you have business as a crunch time, and that's like one time when they normally would have had you as being like, you know, all attentive mom.
So I think that that's evolving, and each time I make a decision about how I want to do it. I generally, about 3 months before we're coming up on either winter break or camp between school and camp, or between camp and school, I try to figure out, like, am I working mornings? Am I working afternoons? Am I doing 1 week of work and 1 week take vacation? And it, each time, depending on the ages of the kids and what's going on, I try to make everybody happy.
Yeah, so I find I do that also. You can't always make everyone happy, but I think if you're clear, it makes people understand and be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I know I do the same thing. I take out a calendar before, let's say, the busy times in the Jewish holidays, for example. We're closed a lot of time. I have a lot of non-Jewish clients, and it's hard for them to understand. I'll be closed, the Monday and Tuesday in the middle of October, or I'll be closed Wednesday, let's say Thursday, Friday, and it's April. And it's just like, what about our closing? So I usually take out a calendar a month before, and I really make sure that my staff and my processes have enough time in them that we could add those days to the process and still finish on time.
Yeah.
So that's
that
what we do.
buffer time is really important.
Yeah, it's very important to be able to understand your process, to know what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's important. That's true. So I find that it's sometimes hard when we build a business, not everyone's as clear as you. I think it's because what you do and what you've done, that you're able to clearly define hours and think yourself when you will be working on a project or not, and be able to portray that to a client. I think that a lot of people are self-employed, and I'm guilty, just like the next one. We tend to think that if we don't pick up our phone, if we don't do something, or we tend to sometimes blur the time that we should be spending with our family versus work. And I always tell people when I talk about it, it's very interesting when you teach something to others, even if you don't do it well yourself, you become better at it. You ever find that? So there's one thing that I love, the Stephen Covey's quadrants of time. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No.
So Stephen Covey has this really nice exercise, which has the 4 quadrants of time. Imagine a piece of paper with 4 quadrants on it, okay? Divide into 4. The top left is urgent, very important. The bottom left is urgent, unimportant. The top right is non-urgent, but very important. And the bottom right is non-important and not urgent. So he says is write down in those quadrants things that fit. So for example, emergency and urgent. Emergency urgent would be you get a phone call from school, your kid fell down, it's gushing blood, being rushed to emergency room. Urgent, very important. Something that's the next quadrant, the bottom, that would be urgent but not important would be let's see, perfect. You're working. You need your cell phone, but the charger's missing. The charger tore, so you have to buy a new charger. Or you don't know where your charger is. You have to get a new charger. So that's emergency now. You need a charger that second. So it's unimportant because you should have a charger, but became an emergency because you need it that moment. Now, the right quadrant, things that are very important but non-urgent, are things like reading a book to your child. You can read it at 9 o'clock morning, 10 o'clock at night. It doesn't have to be that time. Or how about going food shopping? You can go anytime in the week, right? So it's very important to go food shopping, but it's not urgent for now. Now, things that are non-urgent and things that are not important, I can't think of anything in that way except wasting time. So just whatever it is, whatever you can put in that box, just like pick a big X and cross it and never look at that box again and don't do anything in that box. So now we have the three boxes, the urgent and highly important. Those are the crises, whether it's work or personal, the crises that you have to address. And part of your goal in your world is to try to eliminate as many crises as possible. The left bottom quadrant, which is the things that are that are urgent but not important, are the things that if you're able to delegate them to others, they should be delegated, they should be calendared. These are things that, like we're talking about before, I gave the example of can't find your charger, have a shelf for your charger or a plug to put your charger in so it's always there. Like these are things that are very important in the moment, but they really shouldn't be planned, so they shouldn't become a crisis. Now, the things on the top right, which are very important and not urgent, unfortunately, those are the things that we tend not to do or to push off for a very long time. And those are the most important things in our lives, and we think we could do it tomorrow, and then we have that song, The Cat's in the Cradle, never gets done. So I always, when I teach people this, I think to myself of what's in all my quadrants and what can I delegate out, or what processes are in place I don't have those crises, and I try to put in my calendar those non-urgent but highly important things. So I'm not sure if you all got that, but that's kind of like how I look at balancing life, because
it's a great way
those are the things that push us in all different places, and I just love that exercise because it's so visual. It's just a very visual exercise.
It's a great way to think about it, and for someone who really lives by her calendar like you, it really could work that you can really put time in for things that are important for you.
We have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't get done.
It's really true.
There's always something else that's more important.
Yeah.
What do you love most about what you do?
I think that it's one of those things that when you're really good at something and it feels so easy to you, but it's so exciting for other people that you're doing it. I think it's probably tied into my neshama somehow, that something that the way that I see the world is just in structure, and it's trying to make order out of chaos. And when I go into a business, and for me, I see right away, like, what needs to get done, where there's a problem. It's almost like a smell that I have, like, where things need to be. And so there's something really enjoyable about doing something that feels so natural to you, but other people get so much value out of.
And the other people, do you see their aha moment?
Yeah, and not only that, but when you make change that is structural, it impacts over time for a really long time. Another thing, just when you mentioned that, is when people are happy in the work that they do every day, it affects so much. It affects their home life, their happiness. And so when you create a better work environment for the employees, whether it's seeing someone who's unhappy and finding them a role that they fit better in, or someone who's been unhappy for a long time and you work with the COO to talk about restructuring or letting them go, and they weren't, and then they can find a job that's better suited to their skills. There's so many ways that setting up a healthy system in a business can impact people's lives in a real way, and it gives me so much pleasure.
100%. I love what you said. When I take a mortgage application, I keep on going down to my world, I always ask people, do you like your job? And some people say to me, yeah, I do. I say, great, you're approved. And they go, what do you mean? I said, yeah, if you like your job, you like what you do, you're always going to pay your mortgage, because if it's not working here, you're going to work there, because you like what you do. And then you meet someone who just says, I once met this client at the time, they were making the most money of any client I took an application for. And I said, you like your job? Husband, like your job? No, but it pays the bills. And they had a little girl, and I was like, I felt so sorry for her. parents didn't like anything they did. I think so blessed. That's something they like to do.
It's really
it keeps
a
you
gift.
going every day when you enjoy what you do.
It's really, really a gift. It really is.
In interviewing different women and the businesses they do, I'm constantly amazed at the capacity of women. I'm amazed at how well we do in the business world, how professional we are, and how at the same time being so good at what we do, we have that emotional and human end to it. What is your feelings being a woman in a professional business? What do you think what qualities do you think that women bring to the table in business? And we touched on today's world versus a couple of years ago. Just expand a little bit on that.
Sure. So, when I was first starting out, I was trying to think of a good title. And I was resisting calling myself a consultant. And the reason why I was resisting is because when I think of a consultant, I think about a man holding an attaché case, schmoozing at a water cooler, and not getting anything done.
Oh, boy. Sorry for the men who watch this.
And there are a lot of good people who do good consulting work, but that stereotype is there for a reason. And not necessarily that it's a male thing, but I do believe that women who have very vibrant home lives and are going to work because they want to fulfill something inside of them and to help bring in parnasa, every minute of their day is accounted for. And it gives us tremendous efficiency, because if we're not working on our business, then there are 700 things on our to-do list that we should be getting done. And so there's a lot of drive that women have coming into business that lends itself to being super efficient and really making every minute count.
Do you feel ever that you can't make it because you're a woman, or you're not being taken seriously because you're a woman, or this is I hear the rhetoric, women can't make it, they can't move forward, they're not taken seriously, they don't get paid enough, da-da-da. Do you feel that ever? So
while I have clients that are both male or female, I think a lot of times when people think about structure, they think of it as being very rigid, and it could be, but really when you put the people part of things into it and you talk about the emotion and dealing with the people who are actually there. I mean, sometimes you have consultants who come in and say, this is the way it should be, without taking into account the existing employees and their skills and the fact that nobody wants to let them go. And so there's a combination of bringing change in a way that people can accept with their buy-in, and making changes that isn't too uncomfortable for anybody. And so there's a combination of the structure and the emotional side.
Raisy, it was so nice to sit down with you today. I learned a lot. Do you have a couple tips you can give to our audience of something that when they're building their businesses, of when they'll need a consultant, or what they should be looking out for in the growth of the business to know when they need to take a step back and maybe explore some change?
Sure. So one of the things that I talk a lot to my clients about is that simplicity scales, and that in order for a business to grow, if there's too much going on and there's too much customization, it's really, really hard to bring in more people to your team and enable them to be able to give consistent results. So paring things down and making things simple is really important. And sometimes it's hard to do because you've grown your business, and sometimes if you kind of visualize it, it kind of has a lot of different arms, and taking off those parts is really hard. It's kind of hard to edit yourself, but bringing in outside eyes can really help figuring out where you're making the most money, where's the core value in the business. It also helps with marketing. So simplifying things can really help. So that was one thing. Another piece that I wanted to share is that when we talk about defining process, which is creating workflows within a business, sometimes it can get very overwhelming because there's this path and there's that path and there's all these exceptions, and so you can get all tangled up. It's kind of similar to the first thing that I talked about. One of the ways that you can not be overwhelmed is just to define the happy path. The happy path is when everything goes right, and that's a really great start without getting sidetracked and overwhelmed. Just define the happy path. What happens when something happens from the beginning, the first touch with a customer, all the way to the end? What's the happy path? And once you start defining that, all kinds of things will open up in areas that you can look at to start making things more efficient and better and optimized.
It's so funny you say that, because of some of the things you say that I do vicariously in my business. I didn't hire you to put it together. I didn't know you back then. But today I hired a new employee, and she heard me having a conversation with the processor where I said to the processor, who has capacity? Because our processors are busy right now. She said, we can't take a new loan that has to close in less than 30 days. And my response was, we can't take loans that have to close in 7 days, but we can take ones that close in 21 days. And the new girl is hiring said to me, what do you mean, but why did you say that? I said, because our process is a 21-day process. So loans might take longer than 21 days to close because people don't have to move that fast. And there are some loans that have to close in less than 21 days. We have one closing tomorrow that's in our office last week, Wednesday, to today's Wednesday too, for 1 week only. That's
Wow.
unusual, it's not normal. So we do get those unusual ones. We had quite a few this month, that's why the processor made that comment to me. But we have to have, like you said, the happy path. We have to have a process that fits to me, it's 21 days. It has to be full, we have to be able to do that every single loan, regardless. And if it takes a little bit shorter, that's going to be that one-off, it's a little bit shorter. Or if it takes longer, that's natural, that's okay, as long as we're ready in 21 days. So it's kind of what you said, and I think it makes sense. To me, it's like almost having, like I call it a barometer, like a baseline, to keep on going back to it. This is the baseline. What's our baseline? Let's keep on going back to it. Keeps you focused and keeps you in tune.
And once it's clearly defined, everyone can get on board
Yes.
to following that process.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Raisy, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And it was nice. I hope that we get to talk a lot more outside of the podcast. And it was great that you dropped into the panel discussion we had with Muncie Meetup Women, which was really nice. And I'm looking forward to seeing great stuff from you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that you invited me to come.